So let's look at the responses and see how many are correct, how many are not, and what is the correct response. I know you would have already received the correct response, but collectively, let's go through this. So what is the starting and landing page of Qliksense called? And that is, there is someone who has said it home, but I know we typically called home to all the starting pages of different things, but here in Qliksense, it is called hub. So you need to remember that because you will be interacting with hub a lot. Okay, so hub is the right answer. Home is incorrect. App overview is when you open an app, the home page which you see is app overview inside the app. We will talk about that in detail today. What does gray color represent on selection in Qliksense field filter? All of you have said it correct. Irrelevant data. Selected data is represented in which color?
White color.
White color. White. Green.
Green. Selected data is green. Relevant data is white. Irrelevant data is gray. Okay. A bar chart created to see sales by employees. What is dimension in the chart? Again, let's say you have a bar chart, right? Let's say you have a bar chart, which is this, and you have a bar here, which is employee, and on the y-axis you have sales. We had discussed this in detail in our last session that whatever you have on x-axis in bar chart is dimension. A field on which you are doing group by is dimension. Okay, so in that case, employee is the dimension, not the sales. What is sales?
Sales is measure.
Sales is measure, right? So keep that in your mind. It is important concept, and you will use it throughout your BI journey. Now, next is what is a measure in a chart? Field on which aggregation is applied, field on which grouping is applied, field on which data is filtered. None of these. I think there is some confusion here because I see only 2 are correct responses. So any field on which aggregations are applied is typically a measure field. A field on which grouping is applied is a dimension, right? Field on which data is filtered, it has no relevance in BI term because data can be filtered on anything, right? It can be filtered on dimension, it can be filtered on measure. So it has no relevance. Field on which aggregation is applied, sum, min, max, count, average, any other kind of aggregation is a measure. Keep that in your mind, okay? Dimension and measures, you should be crystal clear about these things. What is dimension, what is measure? No confusion in this. Which is a SaaS application? All of you said Qliksense Cloud, which is correct. All right. So make sure you kind of refresh your concepts after the session. Whenever you get time, spend maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour, go through the content again, just refresh your memories. It will help. Okay. Now, quickly reminder on what all things we covered in our last session. So let's go through that. So in last session, we started from here, right? We started from BI terminology and we looked at some of the BI terms such as KPI, dashboard, drill through, drill down, executive dashboard. What is executive dashboard? We looked at a data model, a sample data model, dimension table, measure, and a fact table. How they work, what are they? We talked about it. We talked about the business intelligence project lifecycle. It starts from, the object definition, goes towards our data gathering, data manipulation, perform analytics, build dashboard, demo, approve, publish, and provide access to the end users. So, and it's an iterative process. Every time you have to follow same process. If there is a new enhancement or any change in the dashboard, you have to build it and then publish it. We talked about all these steps in detail. 3 fundamental forces impacted the use of BI analytics: explosion of data, explosion of computing power, rise of information activist, right? Next is, we talked about what is Qliksense. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so next we talked about what is Qliksense and evolution of Qlik to Qliksense. It started as a QlikView tool and then transitioned to Qliksense, and then there is Qliksense Cloud, which is a cloud offering. All these projects have continuous release happening. There is always some sort of release which is happening. So some features are added, some features are removed. So what you see currently in the version which we are using might change or might evolve if you come back after a year. So things are changing and evolving. We looked at flavors of Qlik and two important flavors. One is that Qliksense SaaS and another is Qliksense Desktop. Qliksense SaaS is in cloud. Qliksense Desktop will be a client managed software. There are another set of software which are supporting Qlik. There is an entire suite of software in data services, in reporting, in data integration, but we will focus more on Qliksense, right? And then we looked at associativity, how it works, the power of green, white and gray, some of the use cases by the clients who have used it. And we looked at a Qliksense app, right? Now, next step is understanding the architecture of Qliksense and downloading Qliksense on our local systems. Okay, so before we do that, I want to spend some time on the content which is uploaded online. Now, the next thing which we need to do is we need to understand the architecture of Qliksense. Okay, now there are different things which people cover as part of architecture, because some people think that architecture is about, how you store data with Qliksense and how you present it. There's typically you will find 3-tier or 4-tier architecture, people call it. That is on the usage of Qliksense, how you can use it. But on a technical perspective, the architecture of Qliksense, let's talk about that. So I know this image has a lot of things, so let's break it down the way it is currently structured. So very first one is data at the bottom, right? Data access. So here you have all the data sources listed down. You can have spreadsheet, you can have database, SAP, CRM, web, big data, any kind of data which you are interacting with, right? And this is your Qliksense enterprise architecture, which is basically consists of a server and a server has a multi-node or a single node architecture. It can have any kind of architecture. Multi-node is where you have, multiple servers working together. Let's say 2 servers working together. And single node is you just have one server, which is doing everything. It is basically controlling end-to-end Qliksense, just one server node. That is single node. Now, the one which we are looking is single node deployment, a single server deployment architecture we are looking at, right? So at the very bottom, you have data sources. Now, what your server will do, obviously your server has to interact with the data sources to pull data, right? And it has to pull data and it has to schedule the refresh of data as well, right? So that's where you will see a scheduler and a repository service here. So basically Qliksense will have major 5 services working together. Those are 5 different services which works together. Those are 5 individual services which work together. And that is the power of Qliksense, because when you are doing a multi-node architecture, when you have multiple servers, you can decide which service should run on which server so that your servers and your work is scalable, right? If you have 5 services running on one server, you have just single node architecture. You have all 5 services running on single node. It might have a slow response if you have so many users. However, if you have 3 services running on node 1, 2 services running on node 2, you will have a better performance, right? You will have better performance. So that is where Qliksense shines. It has independent services doing its work. It has different independent 5 key services. It has beyond 5, but 5 key services which are doing its work. And let's talk about those 5 services, right? Now, very first, let's talk about the proxy service from here. Okay. Now, proxy service is a Qliksense proxy service. It is basically an entry point for users and administrators. So let's say you open, on your web, you open Qliksense URL, which is maybe www. There is a server name, right? .com. When you enter through this URL, you directly interact with Qliksense proxy service. Okay, this is the service which you will interact with, and it will be the entry point for administrators as well. So the hub which you open, the very first screen which you see, hub, is basically entry point, which is managed by Qliksense proxy. This basically interacts or integrates with identity providers such as SAML or Active Directory. It make sure you have right license, it check your license and handle the balancing of other components. So that is your proxy service, which is typically called QPS. Okay, Qliksense proxy service. That is the very first service with which you interact. Now, once your authentication is corrected, you are authenticated and authorized to see something. The very next service is Qlik Engine, which is typically called QIX. Okay, Qliksense Engine service. This is where all the associative work happens. Okay, this is where all the associative in-memory data indexing happens. This is the engine of the Qlik services. This is the engine which does all the mathematical computing, in-memory data indexing, associativeness, do all the calculations at the runtime. So this is where it utilizes your RAM. Okay, Qliksense Engine service. It is the point where associative in-memory data indexing happens. This is where your RAM is utilized. This is where the calculation happens. This is where the visualizations do the processing. Okay. Now the third one is scheduler at the down here. It's a separate service which is typically called QSS, which is Qliksense Scheduler. This service is responsible for scheduling components that coordinates the data loads. For example, you have to refresh your dashboard. You have 100 different dashboards on your server. You have to refresh those dashboard, and that what is the refresh? Refresh is going back, bringing the latest data out, right? All of that will be controlled by the scheduler service. Scheduler supports time-based application reloads, dependencies, etc. Right? You can have a dependency where you say that my dashboard 1 refresh. After that, my dashboard 2 refresh. After that, my dashboard 5 refresh. So this data will be used here. This data will be used further. So you can have dependencies, right? All of that will be controlled by Qliksense Scheduler service. Now the fourth one is repository, which is QRS. Okay, now the fourth one is your QRS service, which is a Qliksense repository service. And it is the centralized store for configuration. So whatever configurations you do on the platform, for example, you set certain security rules, you give access to certain users, you have 100 different dashboards with the metadata, when the dashboard was uploaded, when it was created, who is accessing it, all the metadata of your server will be stored in repository. Okay, so all the configuration management information of the platform will be stored in repository service. And this is a Postgres repository service. What kind of database it is? It is Postgres database, which stores all the information related to the server. For example, how dashboard metadata, scheduling, your users interaction, your security rules, your licensing, every information is stored here because all of that is data which needs to be stored somewhere, right? So that is where all of that is stored. All right. Now the last one is .qvf, which is basically right down here. So last one is QVF. This service is comprised of highly compressed data, which will have a data model, a presentation layer, and everything related to the application. And stored on it, you can store this on your file system. So the files which I was showing you, right? The apps which I was showing you are QVF. And you can load these QVFs using Qlik Engine. So whenever you bring these QVF into the apps folder, the Qlik Engine can recognize them and show up in the dashboard. Now there are some services which are in the backend running. There is QPR also. Beyond the 5 key services, there is QPR and QSD. QPR is Qliksense printing service. That is basically when you export some data from the dashboard in form of PDF or in form of a report, that is where Qlik printing service will come into picture. And then there is Qliksense dispatcher, which basically interact as an integrator between multiple services. So this is Qliksense dispatcher. Overall, there are 5 key services. And then there are a couple of auxiliary services, which is QPR and QSD. The 5 key services here are obviously our proxy, our engine service, our scheduler, our repository service, and our QVF. Now, whenever you have Qliksense running on a server, right? So people typically say that, I am facing some challenges. My Qliksense is not working properly, or our server is slow. What people typically do, they will come to the services section. This is where you will find services, right? All the services about your system. So typically, if you come here, you will find a service related to Qlik. Those 5 to 7 services which I talked about, you will find them running here. Typically what people do, they will just restart the services and then, server starts working fine, because at times there are some issues with the services. So, or you can have a regular maintenance where, every week or every month you restart all the services, you restart your server. So that is basically the architecture of Qliksense. When a user is interacting with Qliksense, if you see, that comes through proxy. Once it is authenticated, engine service is triggered, which basically does all the calculation and present the dashboard, right? But at the back end, if any of the dashboard is scheduled to refresh, the scheduler service will come. Repository is anyway storing all the data about whatever people are doing, and anything related to Qliksense is on your system, on the server. It is anyway stored into the repository. QVFs are the files which we have here. And then beyond that, we have Qliksense printing service, and we have Qliksense dispatcher service as well. On the architecture, this is what is important for all of you to understand, that there are services which are independent to each other, which are running in backend, right? There are services which are independent to each other, which are running in the backend and running the entire show. And you can control those services. You can distribute the workload. Let's say you have a single node architecture where you just have one server. Obviously you cannot distribute it, right? All your services has to run on the single node itself. However, if you have multi-node architecture where you have one central node, which is this, I will call it CN. Okay, this is our central node. And then you have a different server to do all the scheduling, which is your scheduler node. And then different server to do all the development, which is your development node. Now, central node can have all the services located, or it can distribute the work also. So developer node can have proxy, engine, and your repository service. And your scheduler node can have, engine, scheduling, and repository. So obviously repository is where you will store all the metadata related to it, right? So you can distribute it in a way that it is more fault tolerant and it is more scalable, right? When you have hundreds or thousands of users accessing Qliksense on server, you want to distribute your services so that, a particular server is doing a particular task. You can obviously do vertical or horizontal scaling. Anyone knows what is vertical scaling and what is horizontal scaling? Any idea? Anyone wants to try? So let's say we have this one server. Okay, so we have our one server where Qliksense is installed. Now, when we started Qliksense in our organization, we started with six or five of you. Okay, 6 of you we started, but eventually everyone liked it and they said that, we also need access to it. And this 6 became 60. Right? Your server which you started was for 6 users. It could only cater 6 users because of the limited RAM and the limited storage capacity and the limited compute capacity. Now, how do you go from 6 to 60? There are different ways, right? Either you can do vertical scaling or you can do horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling is where on the existing server itself, you will add more compute and more RAM. Let's say you started with 16 GB. Now you see that users have increased. You will add 64 GB RAM. OK, and you started with, let's say, 100 GB of hard disk. You add more and make it 1000. That is basically your vertical scaling. Vertically, you are adding more compute, more power to your server. Horizontal scaling is where you bring more servers in parallel. So you already had your one server. Now you procured 2 more servers with same configuration to parallelly support the work. That is your horizontal scaling. So Qlik supports both. It supports vertical and horizontal scaling, and it has a very standard use of compute and RAM. Okay, it has a very standard use of compute and RAM, so you can actually evaluate how much resources are needed for X number of users. So it has a very scalable system, but it has a very standard way of using RAM, which can be derived and which can be calculated. So there is a formula which is provided by Qlik, which can tell you how much RAM you need if you have 1,000 users, how much RAM you need if you have 2,000 users. So let's say you start with 6 and you see that it is going from 6 to 60 to 6,000. You can already decide how much RAM and compute is needed and how do I want, it's up to you. You want vertical or horizontal scaling, but Qlik supports both, and it is pretty much scalable platform. So this is the architecture of Qliksense. You should know. It is very important that you know what are the different services running in the background, because people start working on Qlik without knowing that there are different unique services which are running in the background, and which service is doing what is also very important. Any question, any doubt on the things which we have discussed so far?
Do you have any full form for QVF?
That was Qliksense. It was called QlikView file long time back, right? But now it is called, I think, Qliksense application. And then when you are restarting these services on the server, right, there is an order in which you should restart also. And you will find all that information on the internet, how to do in which order. Typically, you stop in an order where you stop repository database, and then it triggers all others to stop also. Show you one of the screenshot where the services are basically showing up. So this is how your services will show up if you see. Right? This is how your services will show up in the server when you have access to it. If you go to the services in the server, this is how it will show up. You can restart, you can refresh, you can stop the services. Okay. Now all of this is written in the document also, which I shared. So you can go through the document. It should help you, build your understanding. Any other question?
Good, thanks.
Okay. So in this document, you will find all the information which will tell you about the architecture and scalability of Qliksense, how it is scalable, and these are the services, right? And then this is how you can distribute the services, what is central node, what is your client node, and different things in Qliksense, and the QIX engine, more about QIX engine, how it caches in RAM and how it makes user experience better. And how much RAM and how much CPU is needed. All of that is listed and mentioned here in this document I have shared with all of you. So make sure you leverage this document and understand it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now let's jump to our Qliksense installation part. Right. Set up Qliksense on your system. Now, how should we do it? Do you have access to set up or download exe and do installation on your system?
I think that's not possible.
How, like, do you get any support from admin team who can, or IT team who can give you, who can jump into the call, put password and let you install it? Because you have to install this on your system to understand it better.
Then yeah, maybe we need to check with the managers and connect with them.
Okay, let's start with the process and let's see. Let's reach to that point. Okay, now very first thing you need to do is you need to set up your Qlik ID. All right, so let me bring that document which has steps how to do it. The very first thing is needed is you need to create an account on Qlik, right? And you can create it with your personal ID or official ID. It doesn't matter much because anyways, you will be using a trial version. There you go. Okay. So all of you have access to this document also. Why don't all of you jump to this document and let's start accessing it. Let's start with the very first link. So if you click on first link, what do you get?
It's going for the trial business version.
Okay. So thank you for okay. So you have not actually done any installation, so it shouldn't say thank you. So let's start from here. Let me update this. Let's start from here. Okay. So you should have this try Qliksense free link where you have to give a bit of your information. All of you are with me?
Yeah, is it necessary to give the business email or just a personal email is fine?
You can give personal email. You can give personal email. I have used my personal email to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and a couple of more things.
Going to give first name and last name and give personal email and next, right? Or we need to wait?
Yes, yes. So you give your first name, last name, and give your personal email, do next, and then you will have company. You can write whatever you want. It doesn't actually track anything, okay? So you can give company, I had given Gmail. You can give any company, okay? Phone and country and activate my trial. You will get a link on your, click on activation link. You will get a link in your email ID. Then you have to click on that activation link that will activate your Qliksense Cloud version. Let me know once you reach to that point.
Okay.
Okay.
We need to enable the checkbox that don't miss out, or just disable.
Which checkbox?
Don't miss out, like a country and state. It was asking. After that, don't miss out your registration include. No, before activate my trial, the privacy policy was there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you enable that one.
Yeah, I think if it doesn't harm, you can enable it.
Okay. And probably we'll go for the Gmail and check it.
Yeah, then you go to your personal email ID.
Okay.
And you should have received an email from Qlik.
Navdeep, so after I changed the password, it asking the region. It's showing based on your IP address. We set the region of Asia Pacific 1. So
Yes.
what I have to select, because 1 or 2, anything is okay?
Anything is okay. Yeah, Asia, I think it might be showing some Singapore or something. Should be fine.
Singapore and Australia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Sandeep, so I can get that hub page.
You can get that hub page. Perfect. Okay. Now that is one step. And when you get the hub page, you will see something like this, right? It might be blank for you. I have
No,
few apps.
so actually it's asking the one pop-up, welcome to the Qlik Cloud. What is your experience with the Qlik? What are you trying to achieve with your trial? Like that it can asking.
Okay, yes. You can just say exploring product.
Okay.
There are few options there. You can select whichever you want. Doesn't really, it is just a way to get survey responses from user to understand how they are using Qlik. You can select whatever you want.
Okay.
Okay, so Sintana has reached there. How about others?
Yeah, for me, it's blank. For me, showing
For you-
professional.
Okay, but all of you are able to access Hub right now. You are in the home screen and in Hub, right?
No, for me, it is showing for profile information only.
For you, it is showing profile information, something like this one.
No.
You want to share your screen?
Yeah.
I will go back to Hub. This is my Hub, okay? Here, I will click on this NK, go to profile settings, and on the left side, there is an option called tools.
Okay.
I click here, I will see Qliksense Desktop.
Okay.
And this is where I will download, and authentication will also happen from here once I have downloaded. So the process is, once you have Qliksense Desktop downloaded and installed on your system, you have to authenticate it through Qliksense Cloud. That's where this link will come. Okay. So first step is you need to install on your system, which is not yet done. So all of you need to install it. And another way to install it is, another way to download it is actually, let me use another link. Have here downloads, right? Let's use this one. So you can actually download it from their download catalog also. You just need to set up a few things. This is how the download catalog will look like. And it has all the tools, not just Qliksense. If you see, there is QlikView, Qliksense Desktop, Enterprise Governance Dashboard, Migration Tool, Data Integration Tools, whatever you want, you can download all these things. Okay, there are some value added alerting connector, SAP connector, geo analytics, and other things. For us, we want Qliksense, so data analytics, and then Qliksense Desktop. I selected, this is my Qliksense Desktop, and this is my download link. I have already downloaded it. That's why it is I don't want to download it again. The size is 830 MB and it's an August 2022 version. It's a technical preview. It's actually a version which is not yet released. It is under technical preview, the one which I have already downloaded.
I can install Qliksense Desktop, right? Like I need to do for data transfer, enterprise manager, or all the things.
You just have to do Qliksense Desktop.
Okay.
Okay, just this one. So if you want to, the one I have kept is actually a downloaded copy of this. So you can directly download it from Google Drive if you want, or you can download from here as well.
Yeah, I downloaded last what you have shared, like tools from there.
Okay, sounds good. So now all of you have EXE and all of you have Qliksense Cloud setup done. Here one yes, how about others? You can give your reactions.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, nothing. I checked with my manager regarding this application installation. There is an app which is available in Breakfast IT portal. So he asked us to drop an email for raising the active access request. So I'll do by that way.
And I feel that by next session you will have it, right?
Yeah, most probably it should be.
Okay, because it is good to have app installed on your system. It will make it easier for you to use it and understand it when you are doing it yourself, right? Okay, all right, so let's get started again. So what I have done, I already have Qliksense app installed on my system. Okay, so typically how it gets installed is, I will bring my screen here. So how it gets installed is, wherever you are installing it, let's say you are installing it in C drive or documents, wherever you install, it will create these folders on your system. Okay, so apps is the folder where you have to keep your QVFs, which are your Qlik files, Qliksense files. So QVF is the one which has the UI of the app, right? It has the UI and obviously it has the data as well. So it comes with both UI and data. It has stored the UI and the data which is used for the app. When I say UI, all the charts, right? Whatever you see in the front end of the dashboard is actually stored here in this QVF. So let's say you have created one QVF, you've created one dashboard, you saved it on your local Qliksense desktop, it will be saved under this folder, Qliksense apps. You can take that file, send it to anyone and share it. They can also put this file in the apps folder. It will start showing up in their hub. Okay, so you need to put file in apps folder. When I say file, a QVF file in apps folder to show up in hub. And whatever you build in hub, as soon as you save, it goes back in the apps folder. So you will find a copy of it in apps folder. So apps folder is direct interface to hub. Now, apart from apps, you will find extension also. Extensions are some of the charts or some of the features which are created beyond standard Qliksense objects. For example, by standard, you get a bar chart, right? You get a pie chart in Qliksense. But let's say you want to create a Sankey chart. That doesn't come as default with Qliksense. You need to download extension, or those extensions are at times packaged by Qliksense itself. But they are extensions which kind of increase or enhance the power of Qliksense, but doesn't come as by default charts. All of that will be saved here under extensions. For example, if you go to visualization bundle, you will find a lot of additional things beyond the standard chart. If you see, there is a Sankey chart, there is a smart pivot, there is a radar chart, network chart, multi KPI, heat map, funnel chart. There are so many smart charts which are not standard charts. You will find under extensions visualization bundle. These are coming by default with Qliksense installation. I haven't added anything extra. All of that comes under extensions. Log is where you will find the script log and the QIX engine log. Okay. When it is started, when it is stopped, what it is doing, everything is captured in the log. Content is where any image you use in your Qliksense file, QVF, you need to put that image in the content folder to access it. Okay. Buffers, I would just ignore, and let's open the settings file. So your Qliksense browser will have some of the information, your recently used hub ID, your name and stuff like that. Okay, but this is the folder which you should be aware of once you have installed. An important thing is this folder, apps, where you keep your apps, or from where you can take your app and share with someone else. Now the apps which I have shared with all of you under our drive, right? The apps which I have shared with all of you under QVF, what you need to do is you need to download all these apps. Where to put these apps? If you want to see these apps in your Qliksense desktop, where you
App
should
folder.
in app, right? In app folder you put it, it will start showing up in your Qliksense desktop. Now this is my Qliksense desktop. As soon as I open, and it's a standard way to open. You just have to search for, once it is installed, you will just search for it, it will open, right? You need to give your email ID and password, and that's the same email ID and password with which you had set up your Qlik Cloud. Okay.
Navdeep, so actually, I joined a little bit of 2 minutes late. So actually, my desktop is installed. When I click this, it's asking the authentication link.
Yeah. So for your authentication link you will find in your Qlik Cloud. Okay. So this is where you find, come here and click here.
Oh,
under your profile to Qliksense desktop, you will come and authenticate from here.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Now this is your Qliksense desktop hub. You can open same thing on the browser as well. It's your personal choice how you want to work with Qliksense. You can open it in your browser as well. If you're opening it on your browser, the address is localhost 4848 hub my work. So you will just put localhost hub, it will open up. And localhost is your system, right? And it is installed on port 4848. That's why it is localhost 4848. It will show up your hub here, and you can do same thing which you are doing in the desktop app. You can do on the browser using this address. Okay. Now, next step is let's start and get more familiar with the Qliksense desktop. right? Now, this is your Qliksense desktop version, which is stored on your local system. But you need to remember that you cannot publish an app from this local system because it's a local system. It is not something which is connected to the server, or you are not authenticated through the server. You cannot publish from here to the server. So that's why when I open my Qliksense desktop, I don't see any stream here. If it would have been connected to the server, I would see some streams here. Now let's say I see a production stream here, production. And if I have write access, I can move app from hub itself to the production stream, but that cannot be done on Qliksense desktop. I need to open Qliksense Cloud or open Qliksense SaaS app, which is authenticated from server to do that. Qliksense desktop doesn't have that capacity. Now, if you are working on any of the app in Qliksense desktop, you need to save that. If you are, let's say I make any change in the app, I need to save it. It is not auto saved, right? Let's say I kind of build one new chart here. I will go and I will build a new chart. Okay, let's say album and average rating average. I created one bar chart, but if I don't click on save, it will not be automatically saved. Keep that in your mind, because we are now familiar with some of the cloud applications which automatically save it, but it will not. You have to click on save because it's a desktop app, right? So you need to click here to save it. There is no auto save functionality. That is first and important things to know. Now, obviously, when you are installing Qliksense, there are certain system requirements which you need to follow. And I think most of the systems have that. It needs 4 GB RAM, minimum 4 GB RAM to do the installation, because it has that in-memory analytics, if you remember, which need a certain amount of RAM. If you have that amount of RAM, you can install it on your system. Now, we have talked about the folders which it will create. It will have apps folder, it will have extension, and it will have logs folder, right? Once it is installed. So you should be aware of these folders and how those folders are working. Download, you can download Qliksense from the official portal, which we saw how to download. And once it is downloaded, you can start installation, right? Now, all of that is done. We have our Qliksense installed. Now let's understand Hub. Now on Hub, the very first thing you will see is a toolbar on the top, right? Very first thing you see is this toolbar, which is the first part of it, right? Now here you will find very first on the left side is basically a toggle which can on and off the navigation menu. If you don't see your navigation menu when you log in, you just see the app, you just come and click on the left side, you will start seeing the navigation menu. There is a search here where you can search for app. Right now I have just 4 apps. There could be 100 apps once you start developing. Once you are a BI developer, you might have hundreds of apps on your screen, right? Difficult to maneuver. So that's where you can search, and it will search and show you which app you want, right? So there's a search functionality, and then there are a few other options here, which is first is about. If you click on about, it will tell you which version of Qliksense you are using. We are using Qliksense Desktop August 2022 internal version, right? A lot of people, they don't know which version of Qliksense they are using. So how to get to know? You come to about and you will get to know. Now, second is help. So help has a lot of documentation which you can use to read more about it, right? So if you click on help, it will take you to the help of Qliksense, which will have a lot of additional information. And you can obviously directly go to that help by searching online. Now, third is DevHub. DevHub is actually a extended feature of Qliksense where you can create extensions. So we were talking about additional things beyond the standard Qliksense, right? These extensions, these are created using some of the JavaScript, CSS and HTML capability, which you can build. So that how to go, you can come and click here. You can go to DevHub to do that. Okay. So these are like few things on the ribbon or on the toolbar of Qliksense Hub. Now the second thing is here left side you will find your name. Currently it is my name. This is my system, so you will find my name. Similarly, you will find your name. Now here you will find all the apps which are currently present, right? I have 5 QVFs in my apps folder. Those are showing up here, right? Now there is an option to create a new app. If you see this side, there is an option to create a new app. If you click here, you can name an app. Let's say we name it demo app. entered, demo app was created successfully. You see, now there is a demo app showing up here. And I can open the app. The very first thing it will ask me is bring data, right? Add data files to create your app, to create your visualization, because otherwise what else you will do in app, right? So we will talk about that in a brief, but this is what the hub in your Qliksense desktop will have. Okay, now let's open one of the app, which is Pharma app, and it's a demo app which I have downloaded. So from hub, now I have moved to app, right? And the screen which I currently see is app overview. Okay, the screen which I see right now is a app overview, and it has multiple options in the screen, right? It has multiple options in the screen. There are multiple sheets here, and every sheet has a additional information which can tell about that sheet, what that sheet has. So it's a good standard practice that you write few points about the sheet which you are building. Beyond that, there is some pointers about app, what this app is, what kind of information you can find in this app, right? There are few other things, and then this thing we will talk about it once we get into more in details of it. All of you are with me so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about let's continue on the discussion on app. So on the app overview, the first thing you see here, right? The first thing you see on the top, this one. Let's talk about this. So this is your information about app, this image. So you can change this image. You can always change this image. Go to click here on edit, and you can rename it whatever you want, whatever description you want to give, or if you want to change the image, you can. There are some in-app images which are already uploaded, which you can use, right? You can change it. Now, let's say we have done that. Now there is another one, settings here, right? In settings, you can put more information, how you want appearance. Do you want it right to left? What theme you want to use? There are different themes which are present. What do you understand from theme? Theme is basically the look and feel of dashboard, right? Currently, the Sense Breeze theme is used here. Let's go to the app. This is how Sense Breeze theme looks like. OK, let me take a quick screenshot of Sense Breeze, and we will change the theme. I'll show you how it impacts. OK, now I go back to my app overview. I will change the theme from Sense Breeze to Sense Classic. OK, I'll save it. You see how it has changed. So this was our Sense Breeze with some of the so Sense Breeze has a strong partitions, right? If you see here, charts have a strong partition, right? Whereas the current one, the classic which we are using, there are no partitions. So these are subtle differences between themes, and you can actually build your own theme as well if you are interested. But the current themes which are provided are the very basic themes, right? With subtle difference between how your dashboard will look. Similarly, the background color, right now you see it is all gray. You can obviously change it to whatever color you want, and it depends, right? At times people use the color of their organization to use it in the background. OK, so at times people now see if you see it is now converted to a green. Earlier it was this color. Now it is green, right? So people use some of their organization colors as headers on top. Now here it is changed to green now, right? I will go back to app overview because we'll talk more about app. Now, image alignment, the image which you saw on the left side, right? How that image you want to align. Do you want center, right aligned, left aligned, all of that? And what is the color of the font you want to use? You can control that from this settings. So this setting is just for majorly this section, right? And in the app on the border section, the very top border section, you can control with it. OK, now another thing is you can always switch to multiple. You can always switch to data manager, data load editor, data model viewer from this panel. And in center, you will always find analyze sheet. If I click here, it will take me to the sheet, the very first sheet, right? And what are sheets? What are sheets? Sheets are these pages, which has all the charts added to it, right? So this is like a shortcut for you to directly go to sheet. This is a shortcut for you to directly go to data manager. You can do that from this side also, right? But this is a shortcut for you. And now there are a few other things. These are sheets which are showing up, my sheets, right? There are certain sheets which are showing up as my sheets. Now let's say if I create a new sheet, I will call it demo sheet. Okay. There is my demo sheet now. All right. So you can create as many sheets as you want. You can give them name, you can give them description, and you can do multiple things with it, which we will do as part of our training, right? Now, another thing is that you should be fairly comfortable with how you create sheets and what kind of information you should put in the sheets, right? Try to create sheets which are more related. So let's say if I have Qlik brand performance, I should typically keep all my brands performance in this. I should not have some random chart or some random data set which is not, clearly needed for this particular, which does not resonate with this sheet, right? So that is important. Now, similarly, it is important that you create, when you are creating a sheet, you give it right name and put right information in it. Right? So that is important. Now that is majorly about sheets and how you create it. Obviously, you can change the view and stuff like that. Now, second option you see here is bookmark. What do you think is a bookmark?
Maybe to show only the highlighted chains.
Or any links it is attached to it.
Come again?
Any external web links are connecting to this chart.
Okay, fair enough. How anyone else
Or
wants to
important
try as well?
sheets which can be bookmarked.
Okay, so bookmark, let's go to bookmark. Okay, so currently there is no bookmark. Bookmark, if you think about when you are reading a book, you have a bookmark there, right? What you do, you keep a bookmark on the page where you want to come back, right? Similarly here, let's say I am someone who does analysis on this dashboard, and I am more focused on DC market. Okay, I'm more focused on DC market. I'm more focused on the loyalist decile, right? I'm more focused on loyalist decile and I'm more focused on DC market. Now, what I want is I don't want to come every time on the dashboard and do these two selections. Okay, I don't want every time to come to the dashboard and do these two selections. For that, what I will do, I will create a bookmark, right? So that when I come next time, I don't have to put these two selections. These are already selected for me. Make sense? Now I will name it DC market with loyalists. I'll give a description. Keep my filters on certain market. Okay. Now I will save my sheet location. I will save my bookmark. Will create. Okay. Now my bookmark is created. Right now, if I come back to the home screen, let's go back to our home screen. App overview. Let's go to bookmark. Now I see my bookmark is already there, right? Now, if I come back and just click on my bookmark, it will keep my filters. So I don't have to do filtering again. You see, I didn't do any filter. So bookmark is basically to keep your selections intact and save the things which you do over and over again. Right? So bookmark is a way to keep your selection saved. So you can save your bookmarks and you can use those bookmarks whenever you come next time to the app. I have closed the app. I'm coming back again. Next day, I just come to my bookmarks and directly go to that bookmark. Okay. I didn't save that, right? That's where it didn't save. So you can save it and you can use the bookmarks. OK. And if you have already Qliksense set up on your system, you can do that in parallel with me. That will give you more confidence also. if you are on server, there are certain sheets which will be private to you until and unless you don't publish those sheets. So currently we are on our local desktop version, all sheets are private to you. But once this application is published, you will see here as the published sheets, and then you will see my sheets at the bottom, which are just for you and are private sheets to you, which are not accessible to everyone. Okay. Now, third thing is story. So story is where you can create a story based on your analysis by putting certain charts together. Okay, for example, every Monday, someone wants to look at a report, a canned report, a story. You can create that story out of this section, which is stories. Okay, now when you are navigating through the app, on the center, as I said, there are options. You have a data manager, you have a data load editor, and you have a data model viewer. Right now, data manager is basically where you can drag and drop and pull your tables together and create a data model. That is your data manager. Right now in this app, this app is not created by using data manager. This app is created using data load editor. That's why you don't see anything here. So for that, there is another app which I created, data manager app, which will show you how a typical data manager looks like. So if I go to data manager, you will see all the tables which you have loaded here. For example, this is just one table. I can always bring more tables. Okay. I can bring more tables. All those tables will show up with the relation also. So let's just bring maybe one table. Okay, let's bring movie revenue. And so I bring one table that will also show up here. This is another table. These two tables are not connected yet, but it will give me some recommendation, and it is telling me how to join these two data set. I will just apply that recommendation. We'll talk about it later. I just want to show you how tables are connected in data manager. So data manager is basically a UI to build your data model. So you can just drag and drop and put things and join together. Okay, that is a data manager. Similarly, you have a data editor. Now, some people want more control. They don't want to go through this UI because there are additional complex changes needed in the data. You need to do some joins, some aggregation, some filters, a lot of other things on your data. So you don't want to go through this route of data manager. You want to do it yourself, right? There are a lot of cases where you want to do it yourself. That is where you will go to data load editor. So data load editor is where you can write all the script which you want. For example, you see here, right? There is a code written by someone and you can do all that coding here. You can write for loops, you can do if else statements, you can do a lot of different complicated things which will come as part of our scripting sessions. So you can do yourself all the data manipulation and joins and create your data model. Okay. That is your data load editor. So it could be very simple also. And if you look at the code, it seems similar to SQL. It's just that instead of select, now you have load star. In SQL, we do select star. Here you have load star, right? From a specific data set. Which all fields you want and what kind of conditions you want to apply on it. It is similar to SQL. You can do if conditions. There are so many functions you can apply, but all of that is the data load editor. So once you build something in data load editor, you cannot use data manager then. These two are like different from each other. Either you use data manager or you use data load editor. If you are a more advanced user, you understand the coding part of Qlik, which is very simple. If you understand how to code in Qlik and you want to take control of the data, you want to write your own way of data manipulation and data processing pipelines, you use data load editor, right? If you are more comfortable with drag and drop to build your table, you just select here how you want to join. That's where you use data model viewer. Sorry, that's where you use data manager. Data model viewer is basically to look at your data model, how those tables are connected. Okay, it will just show you in a nice way how your tables are connected. Now let's look at data model of this pharma app because that's very interesting data model. So if I click on data model viewer, you will see, all the tables which are currently used in the dashboard. Okay. So you will see all the tables which are currently used in the dashboard, how they are connected with each other. Okay. And you can preview the data also. For example, in product table, what kind of data is there? This is the sample data. There are 25 rows, 5 fields, 2 keys, and there are some tags also, right? So you can preview the data also. There are different layouts you can switch to. There is a grid layout. There is an auto layout, which it creates, or there are different kind of layouts you can switch to. Okay. You can show linked fields. There are different ways to just see it. You can see it in an expanded way or just look at it in a contracted way, right? Whatever way suits you, and then you can zoom in, zoom out, because this view will be very important for you. When you are building an app, you obviously want to see how my data is looking. Is it correct or not, right? And if you click anywhere here, you will find a lot of additional information about a table, which we will talk later. Right now, just understand that data model viewer is basically where you will look at the data model. So you got data manager, data load editor, data model viewer. 3 different things related to data, related to your data which you are loading. The center one is analyze, where you just see the fancy charts. Third one is storytelling, where you can do the storytelling. Here you have a way to create a bookmark. On the very right side, you have a drop down which will show you all sheets at once. Let's say you want to switch between sheets, it will show you here. This is the this is the next and previous of the sheets. This is where you can edit a sheet. You can see how the sheet is created and you can edit it. Okay. We'll go back to data manager, which is in this app, right? Let's go back to data manager. So you can have different views of it. Okay. You can have, this is your association view where you see it linked in a very fancy way. You can have a table view also, which will show you how many tables are there. And you can always bring more data from many different data sources. You see the data sources here. You can bring from any of this data source. If you have the right connection strings, you can load, or you can bring it from the system. This is where you will bring it from your computer, my computer, or you can just manually type a table also, right? Let's say I have a table where and I want to add a couple of fields. I can add those fields here. I can name it maybe name, age, whatever. So this is a way where I can manually create some data, quick and dirty data, and bring that into the app. So there are different ways you can bring data into the app. Any questions so far? I know there's a lot of information, right? So it will take some, you need some time to digest it, but just spend time on the apps which I have shared, right? And open any of the app. Just try to do whatever you want, because it is not going to impact anything, right? You can just try to switch between the sheets, edit it, try to see what is there in the data model, how the sheets are created. You know, change anything will not have any impact, because that's your local app on your system. It has nothing to do with how other people will see app, right? It is not a published app. So that's where you need to spend more time exploring this, spending more time on the different features, so that you are comfortable with the UI of Qliksense Desktop, right? So you should be pretty much comfortable with the UI, how it works, and what are different components of the UI. Any question from anyone?